I never imagined my wedding day would turn into the battlefield where every hidden scar of my life ripped open, raw and bleeding. But there I stood, in the opulent ballroom of the Harrington Estate in upstate New York, my silk gown hugging me like a second skin, pearls glistening under the chandeliers, as my new father-in-law, Howard, raised his glass for a toast. The room held its breath. 400 guests, all polished and privileged, sipping vintage champagne. His voice boomed, slurred from one too many whiskeys, pointing straight at my mother sitting alone at a back table near the service doors. "That's not family," he sneered, loud enough to echo off the marble walls. "That's gutter trash." The silence hit like a slap. Ice clinking in glasses the only sound. And then Jack, my husband of barely an hour, let out a laugh, a deep, genuine bark that sliced through me like a knife. It wasn't shock or nerves, it was agreement. Pure and ugly. In that instant, the ground beneath me cracked, and I plummeted into a void of betrayal that had been building for months. Unseen, but festering. Let me pull back the curtain on how we got here. Because this nightmare didn't erupt out of nowhere, it simmered. Slow and toxic. In the shadows of class divides and whispered judgments. 3 days before the wedding, I was perched on a pedestal in a high-end bridal salon in Manhattan. The kind where they serve Dom Perignon just for a fitting. My mom, Linda, sat quietly on a velvet bench, her simple blue dress neat but worn, her hands clasped around a faded handbag she'd carried for years. Across from her lounged Victoria Harrington, my future mother-in-law, in a tailored Chanel suit that screamed old money, her diamond earrings catching the light like tiny spotlights. "The gown fits beautifully, Sophia," Victoria purred, her smile all teeth and no warmth. "But have you stuck to that cleanse I recommended? We can't have any unflattering angles in the society pages." I nodded, forcing a grin, even though I'd starved myself down 10 pounds to appease her endless critiques. Then her gaze slid to my mom. "Linda, darling, have you decided on your outfit? If not, I could loan you something from my closet, something more refined." The word refined hung there like poison ivy, itching at the air. Mom's cheeks flushed, but she kept her composure, her voice soft. "That's thoughtful, but I've got it covered." Victoria's eyebrow arched. "Well, if you're sure. Though perhaps a visit to my hairdresser? As a little gift." Mom's fingers tightened on her bag, knuckles whitening, and I felt a pang of shame twist in my gut, not for her, but for how this world made her seem small. She'd raised me solo after Dad bailed when I was a toddler, scrubbing floors as a janitor and waitressing shifts to keep us afloat. She'd mended my clothes with careful stitches, packed sandwiches in Ziploc bags while other kids flaunted bento boxes, and never once let me feel the weight of our struggles. But in that salon, with its crystal flutes and air of entitlement, I felt exposed, like our life was a stain on their pristine canvas. That night, over delivery pizza in Jack's loft in Brooklyn, paid for by his parents' trust fund. Of course, I vented to him. "Your mom basically called mine frumpy and broke." He barely glanced up from his phone, scrolling through stock updates. "Babe, you're reading too much into it. Mom's just obsessed with the vibe. This wedding's huge, half the board members from Dad's firm are coming." It felt like an insult. "Jack," he sighed, finally meeting my eyes with a flicker of annoyance. "Look, I get it. But my family's got expectations. They're not mean, they just want perfection. After the vows, it'll smooth out." I wanted to push back, to make him see how it chipped away at me, but exhaustion won. I'd been bending over backward to fit into his circle, ditching my cozy studio in Queens for his glossy life, ignoring the red flags. "Fine," I muttered, letting him pull me into a hug that felt more like a dismissal than comfort. The rehearsal dinner cranked the tension higher, like a noose tightening inch by inch. The Harringtons had booked out an exclusive club in the Hamptons, the sort where membership required a pedigree longer than a resume. Mom showed up in her best black dress, hair styled with care, makeup subtle but glowing. To me, she was radiant. But as she navigated the sea of couture gowns and bespoke tuxedos, eyes followed her, whispers trailing like smoke. During the toasts, Howard stood, his booming voice recounting the Harrington dynasty, the Ivy League educations, the multi-million deals, the unbreakable legacy. He praised Jack endlessly but skipped over me entirely, as if I were an afterthought. Under the table, Jack squeezed my knee, but he didn't rise to add a word about my family. My roots. It stung. That silence. Like acid on an open wound. Later, in the powder room, my best friend Mia found me gripping the sink. Breath shallow. This isn't you, Sophia. You've dimmed your light for them. The invitations are out. The vendors paid. Mom scraped together for her dress. Voices drifted from the hall, Victoria's clipped tone. I warned Jack this was a mismatch. That woman's raised her in poverty, those calloused hands scream labor. What about the grandkids' genes? Mia's eyes blazed, urging me to bolt. But I froze, absorbing the venom, telling myself marriage would magically fix it all. I barely slept that night, replaying those words like a broken record, each loop deepening the ache. Wedding morning dawned crisp, and Mia drove me to the suite at a 5-star hotel overlooking Central Park. The room was a dream, plush robes, fresh orchids, a spread of croissants and mimosas. My gown shimmered on its hanger, a fairy tale escape. Mom arrived early, a small gift box in hand, her hug wrapping me in the familiar scent of vanilla soap. This was your grandma's, she said softly. For you're something old. But before I could open it, Victoria burst in with her entourage of stylists, air-kissing me while eyeing Mom. Linda, you're here already? We need to dive in, the photographer's on a tight schedule. Mom stepped back, box forgotten on the table. I'll head out then. See you at the venue. Honey. Victoria's dismissal was a masterclass in passive aggression, and I let it slide, pulled into the whirlwind of pins and powders. Victoria nitpicking every detail. That foundation's too matte, you'll look ghostly in flash. By the time I zipped into the dress, I felt like a mannequin. Polished but hollow. The ceremony at St. Patrick's Cathedral was a spectacle, towering arches, organ music swelling like a heartbeat. Jack's side brimmed with socialites and executives, mine sparse. Just coworkers, old friends, and Mom alone in the pew. Her smile brave but brittle, walking the aisle solo, bouquet trembling. I scanned the judgmental stares, the polite nods masking disdain. Mom's eyes met mine, full of unwavering love, and for a split second, doubt crashed over me. But Jack waited, grinning nervously, whispering, "You're stunning." Vows exchanged, rings slipped on, applause done. Married. Or so I thought. The reception back at the estate amplified the cracks into fissures. During cocktails, I overheard Jack with his buddies by the bar. Yeah, she's a bit rough around the edges. But hey, she's hot. Laughter followed, laced with barbs about my upbringing. My blood ran cold, hidden behind a pillar. Then the seating bomb, Mom relegated to a corner table, far from us, to make room for some VIP donors. Your mom was cool with it, Jack shrugged when I confronted him. Rage bubbled. But guests milled about, eyes on us. Mia whispered Mom had fled to the restroom. Upset. I found her there, dabbing tears, Some aunt of Jack's thought I was staff, asked if I could fetch her a drink. When I said I'm the bride's mom, she looked horrified, like I'd crashed the party. I hugged her tight, guilt choking me for dragging her into this viper pit. The toast sealed the doom. Howard, drunk and domineering, grabbed the mic. To my son Jack, Harrington through and through, destined for the top. He rambled on legacy, then pivoted. We could have matched him with someone from our circles. But we believe in uplifting the less fortunate. Victoria chimed in. Saccharine, Sophia's humble roots showed promise, with our polish. Eyes turned to Mom. But her mother. Shocking. Really. Simple doesn't cover it. Howard snatched back. Let's call it what it is, trash. Toilet scrubbing trash unfit for Harrington grandkids. Gasps rippled. Laughter from Jack's crew. And Jack? He laughed too. Head thrown back. That sound shattered me, betrayal crystallized. Every ignored slight exploding into fury. I rose. Chair scraping. Veil askew. Marching to the mic. This marriage is done. Chaos erupted, Jack pleading. It's just Dad's booze talking. Victoria wailing about costs. But I roared back, you laughed while they tore her down. My mom's worth 1,000 of you. As guests filmed. Mom stood. Posture shifting from meek to commanding. Sophia. My name isn't Linda Hayes. It's Linda Whitaker. And I'm a billionaire. The room froze. Whitaker Industries Tech. Real estate. Worth billions. I had it all to raise you right. Away from greed's poison. She faced Howard. You've worked for me unknowingly, fired now. Per your contract's ethics clause. Jack's phone buzzed, his firm. Whitaker backed. Dumping him. The Harringtons crumbled, bankruptcies. Scandals. Boards fleeing. In the aftermath. As videos went viral, I shed the old skin, divorce swift under New York's no-fault laws. Mom taught me the empire. Not for power, but purpose, foundations for single moms. Ethical investments. I met David, a nonprofit director, who loved me sans secrets. Our quiet wedding, a year later, was real, full of genuine souls. The Harringtons? Shadows now. Their cruelty's price paid. But mine? Freedom. Forged in fire. Reminding me silence breeds monsters. And truth, though painful, sets you free.